benefits. And second, some upcoming rule changes for 2025 if you're working while getting Social Security.
Yeah, our goal here is just to break down what these developments actually mean for you, maybe highlight some details you might otherwise miss.
Exactly. So let's get started.
Okay, let's kick off with this executive order. What's the main idea behind it?
Well, the core purpose seems to be about preventing uh, individuals considered ineligible, specifically mentioning illegal aliens, from getting Social Security Act benefits. It's framed as, protecting and strengthening the program.
Okay, protecting the program. And what does it actually direct the administration to do?
It gets pretty specific. It tells them to make sure ineligible individuals don't receive funds. Things like issuing new guidelines, prioritizing enforcement against people who don't verify eligibility.
So more checks and balances.
Seems like it. And also stopping payments faster to people who've passed away or are found ineligible for other reasons. It's quite direct.
And I saw something about boosting resources for enforcement.
Yes, exactly. The order talks about expanding the Social Security Administration's fraud prosecutor program. The goal is at least 50 U.S. attorneys' offices.
50, wow.
Yeah. And on top of that, setting up similar programs specifically for Medicare and Medicaid fraud in 15 U.S. attorney offices. So it suggests, well, a pretty significant increase in oversight.
So for people listening, that means potentially more scrutiny around who's getting benefits.
That seems to be the implication. Another interesting bit is directing the Social Security Inspector General to investigate earnings reports for people aged 100 or older.
Oh, yeah, I think I heard something about that recently. Questions about, very elderly beneficiaries still being on the rolls.
Right. That detail certainly catches the eye. And it also directs the SSA to think about bringing back civil monetary penalties for Social Security fraud.
Civil monetary penalties, but
Yeah.
those are like fines, right? Financial fines.
Exactly. Fines the government can levy for fraud. They'd been paused, apparently, so bringing them back would signal a tougher stance.
Okay, so what's the reasoning given for all this? Why now?
The main justification given is protecting taxpayer dollars, making sure benefits only go to those legally entitled to them.
Uh-huh.
And there's an argument presented that illegal immigration specifically strains resources, not just Social Security, but also things like unemployment insurance, disability, Medicare, Medicaid, a whole range of programs.
Right, and the source material we looked at mentioned some specific numbers related to immigration.
It did. It cited a claim about a sharp increase in Social Security numbers being assigned to immigrants, quoting a figure of over 2 million just in fiscal year 2024.
2 million. Okay, important to note that's a claim being cited there.
Definitely. And it connects this to arguments about costs to taxpayers. The Federation for American Immigration Reform, or FAIR, is mentioned, estimating significant annual costs.
And the counter-argument is often that taxes are paid, right?
Right, but the material argues that any taxes paid by some undocumented individuals don't cover the total cost they might impose on services and benefits.
Okay. It also mentioned a CBO estimate, Congressional Budget Office.
Yes, related to the cost of the Biden administration's border policies. So various economic arguments are being pulled in to support the order's rationale.
It feels like this isn't a totally new theme, though.
You're right. It mentions a previous attempt under President Trump to prevent illegal aliens from being eligible for Obamacare, which got stopped by a lawsuit. So, yeah, it suggests an ongoing focus here.
So the message is kind of reinforcement. Border security, reducing financial incentives.
That seems to be the core message. It's also positioned as building on a prior executive order about preventing taxpayer resources from supporting or incentivizing illegal immigration.
And they claim some success already.
Yeah, the administration claims they've already stopped over 1,000 immigrants with criminal records or ties to terrorism from getting Social Security benefits.
Okay. And there was one last point about an app.
Oh, right. The CBP One app. It's mentioned as an option for illegal aliens to self-deport, presented as a voluntary way out.
Interesting. Now, the source material posed a question, didn't it? About whether this goes far enough.
It did. It asked viewers for their take, whether they think the order is sufficient or if other measures are needed. We're not taking a side, of course, just reporting what was asked. It's something for listeners to chew on.
Definitely raises questions about scope and impact. Okay, let's shift gears now. This next topic probably hits closer to home for many listeners planning their retirement.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the rules for working while you're receiving Social Security benefits, specifically the updates for 2025.
Right. So the big one is the earnings limit if you haven't hit your full retirement age yet. What's that number for 2025?
For 2025, if you're receiving benefits before your full retirement age, the annual earnings limit is $23,400.
23.4. Okay. And what happens if you earn more than that?
If your earnings go over that $23,400 limit, your Social Security benefits will be reduced. They withhold $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn above the limit.
$1 for every $2 over. Got it. That's pretty important to factor into your planning if you're working early.
Definitely.
Now, what about the year you actually reach full retirement age? Is it different then?
Yes, it is. There's a higher limit that applies only in the calendar year you attain your full retirement age. For 2025, that limit is much higher, $62,160.
62,160. Okay. And the reduction is different too.
It is. It's less steep. In that year, for earnings above the $62,160 limit, they only withhold $1 in benefits for every $3 you earn over the limit.
1 for 3 instead of 1 for 2.
Okay.
And then the best news.
Right, once you actually reach your full retirement age.
Exactly. From the month you reach full retirement age onwards, there is no limit. 0. You can earn as much as you want, and your Social Security benefits won't be reduced at all.
That's a huge milestone for a lot of people's planning.
Absolutely. A very common question.
So, when we talk about earnings here, what exactly does Social Security count? Is it just wages?
It's primarily wages from a job, yes, but also net earnings from self-employment. So if you run your own business, that counts. Bonuses count, commissions count, basically money you earn from working.
Okay. But what about other income streams, like, say, a pension or investments?
Good question. No, those generally don't count towards this earnings limit. Things like pensions, any investment income you have, interest, annuities, other government benefits, those are not considered earnings for this purpose. So that income won't trigger benefit reductions. That's important.
Very important distinction.
Now, if you are working and under full retirement age, how should you handle reporting this to the SSA to avoid problems?
The Social Security Administration really encourages you to give them an estimate of your expected earnings for the year. And generally, it's better to overestimate slightly than underestimate.
Why overestimate?
Well, if you underestimate and earn more than the limit, Social Security might overpay you benefits during the year. And then you'll have to pay that money back later, which can be a hassle. Overestimating might mean slightly lower benefits initially, but you avoid owing money.
Makes sense. Avoid the payback situation if you can. What if someone retires, say, halfway through the year? Are they subject to the full annual limit right away?
Good point. There's a special rule for the first year you start receiving benefits before full retirement age, especially if you retire mid-year. It's a monthly earnings test.
Monthly tip.
Yes. In that first year only, you can get your full benefit check for any month where your earnings are below a certain amount for 2025. That monthly limit is $1,950 regardless of your total earnings for the whole year.
Oh, okay. So even if your annual earnings might end up over the limit because of work before retirement, you can still get checks for the months after you retire if you stay under that monthly threshold.
Exactly. It helps smooth that transition into retirement when you stop working mid-year.
That seems like a really useful rule for people in that situation. So how does the SSA eventually square things up? How do they know your actual earnings?
Well, after the year ends and you file your taxes, the IRS shares your earnings information with the Social Security Administration.
Ah, the IRS connection.
Right. Then SSA reconciles your reported earnings with what the IRS has. If they find you were paid too much because you went over the limit, they'll arrange to recover the overpayment, usually by withholding future benefits. If you were underpaid, they'll pay you the difference.
Okay, so it all gets reconciled eventually based on tax data. Now, who exactly do these rules affect most? Is it just people taking benefits before full retirement age?
That's the main group, yes. Anyone retiring before their full retirement age needs to be aware of this. And just a reminder, full retirement age is still gradually increasing. For those born in 1955 or later, it's climbing towards 67. In 2025, it hits 66 in 10 months for some folks.
Right. Important to know your own full retirement age. Does it affect spouses or survivors too?
Yes, it does. If you're receiving spousal benefits or survivor benefits before your own full retirement age, your benefits are also subject to the earnings test based on your individual earnings. It's not a household test.
Okay, individual earnings matter there. What about people on disability? Do these same limits apply?
No. Disability beneficiaries operate under a different set of rules and limits. It's called Substantial Gainful Activity, or SGA.
SGA.
For 2025, the SGA limit is generally $1,620 per month. It's higher if you're blind, $2,700 per month. Earning over the SGA limit can impact your disability benefits, potentially reducing or even stopping them. It's a completely separate test from the retirement earnings test.
Good to clarify. So disability has its own specific earnings rules.
Hmm.
Now, back to the retirement benefits. If benefits are withheld because you earned too much before full retirement age, is that money just gone?
No. And this is a really crucial point that often gets missed, that money is not permanently lost.
Okay. How does that work?
When you eventually reach your full retirement age, the Social Security Administration actually recalculates your benefit amount. They give you credit for those months where benefits were withheld because of the earnings test.
To give you credit.
Yes. So over the long run, your monthly benefit amount will be increased to account for those withheld months. Essentially, it's as if you had delayed starting your benefits for that period. Most, or even all, of the withheld amount comes back to you through slightly higher payments later on.
Wow, okay. So it's not a penalty in the long run, more like a deferral for those months.
Okay.
That's very reassuring.
It really is. It means working might temporarily reduce checks, but it doesn't usually reduce your lifetime payout.
And does continuing to work have any other potential upside for Social Security?
It definitely can. Remember, Social Security calculates your benefit based on your highest 35 years of earnings.
Yeah.
If you continue working, especially if those later years are high earning years for you, they could replace lower earning years in your record.
Bumping up the average.
Exactly. SSA reviews your earnings record each year, so if a recent year of work increases your 35-year average, your benefit could actually go up, even retroactively sometimes.
So working longer can potentially increase your base benefit amount, quite apart from the earnings test recalculation.
Correct. Two potential benefits there.
This really underscores how important planning is, doesn't it? Thinking about when to claim, whether to work.
Absolutely. Estimating your earnings carefully if you're under full retirement age is key to avoiding those overpayment headaches. And another thing to remember. Working while receiving benefits can also make it more likely that your Social Security benefits themselves become taxable.
Oh, the tax implications.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, depending on your total income, including wages, and half your Social Security, up to 85% of your benefits could be subject to federal income tax. Working pushes your income up, making taxation more probable.
Something else to definitely factor in. What about Medicare? If you work past 65, say, and have health insurance through your job.
Yes, that's another planning point. If you have coverage through a current job, yours or your spouse's, and the employer has 20 or more employees, you might be able to delay enrolling in Medicare Part B without facing a late enrollment penalty later.
Might be able to delay, so you need to check the specifics.
Definitely. The rules can be tricky, especially around the size of the employer and whether the coverage is considered creditable. It's crucial to understand your options before you turn 65 or retire.
Okay. And for self-employed folks, same earnings limits apply.
Same Social Security earnings limits apply, yes. But remember, for self-employment, it's your net profit that counts towards the limit, not your gross revenue.
Net profit. Got it. So just to quickly run through the key reminders for 2025 again.
Sure. First, remember full retirement age is creeping up. Know yours.
Okay.
Second, understand the annual earnings limits. $23,400 before FRA, $62,160 in the year you reach FRA.
And no limit after FRA.
Correct. Third, remember the special monthly rule for your first year if you retire mid-year.
Under $1,950 a month for those months.
Right. Fourth, keep good records of your earnings just in case there are any questions later about overpayments.
Good practice anyway.
And finally, the big one. Money withheld due to the earnings test before full retirement age isn't lost forever. Your benefit gets recalculated later.
That recalculation point is huge.
It is. Take some of the sting out of it.
So that's the rundown, the executive order details and the 2025 rules for working while receiving benefits. Hopefully, bringing it down like this has provided some real clarity for you.
Yeah, understanding these details is just so vital for making informed choices about Social Security, about your retirement income, really about planning your financial future.
We really hope you'll take some time to think about how these changes might affect your own plans. What are your thoughts on the reasoning behind the executive order? If you're planning to work while getting benefits, how do these 2025 limits change things for you?
Those are exactly the kinds of questions to ask yourself. And look, for the absolute final word, the most up-to-date info and answers tailored to your specific situation.
The official source is always best.
Always. The Social Security Administration website, ssa.gov, is really the go-to resource, or contact them directly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us here on Financial Area for this deep dive. We really aim to bring you the information you need to sort through all these financial complexities.
We'll be back soon with more insights for you. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Financial Area. I'm Paul.
And I'm Rachel.
Today we're doing a deep dive into some really important updates. Stuff about Social Security and Medicare that you probably need to know about.
That's right. We've been looking into two key things for you today. First, a recent executive order touching on Social Security benefits. And second, some upcoming rule changes for 2025 if you're working while getting Social Security.
Yeah, our goal here is just to break down what these developments actually mean for you, maybe highlight some details you might otherwise miss.
Exactly. So let's get started.
Okay, let's kick off with this executive order. What's the main idea behind it?
Well, the core purpose seems to be